Prosecution's first witness.
Yes, sir. State called Sean Champ.
All right. Thank you.
Just have him sit out there.
Say.
Have the witness just sit out there.
Or out there.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to provide in this cause is truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth shall be God?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Once you are comfortable, go ahead and pull the microphone in front of you if you could. Glowing red thing, just push it over in front of you. There you go. All right. And the press is watching this remotely.
Okay.
Do you care if your picture may end up in a story?
No, that's fine.
That's fine with you. All right. And go ahead, Mr. King.
Judge, is the witness allowed to take off his mask?
Yes.
That's all right? Great. That kind of gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
All right. I'm going to move that speaker if you don't mind. Just if you can tilt it up. It doesn't move up. That's great. Thank you. All right, sir. Will you please state your name and spell your last name for us?
My name is Lieutenant Sean Champ. Last name is Champ.
I think we can tell from the uniform, but will you tell us what you do for a living?
I am a lieutenant with the Hockin County Sheriff's Office in Hockin County, Ohio.
What does a lieutenant with the sheriff's office do?
My general duties are general patrol duties, responding to calls for service, and supervising the other deputies on my shift.
When you say calls for service, does that mean when you get a call, 911 call, or a call for assistance, that you go out to a scene to assist?
That is correct.
All right. And what shift do you currently work?
I currently work 8P to 8A.
Thank you for being awake for us. I want to turn your attention back to last summer, in particular July of last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Were you still at the sheriff's office at that time?
Yes, I was.
Were you still working the 8P to 8 a.m. shift?
Yes, I was.
In particular, I want to draw your attention to July 25th. Were you employed that night, working that night?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember receiving a call out to South Bloomingville area?
Yes.
Were you on patrol in that area?
I was not in that area.
Okay.
No.
All right. What was the call?
I received a call of a missing person report at 23605 Chestnut Grove Road.
All right. 23605 Chestnut Grove Road, and that's South Bloomingville?
The mailing address is probably South Bloomingville. It's Benton Township in Hockin County.
And that's in Hockin County?
Correct.
Okay. Do you remember who the caller was?
I do not know who the actual caller was, no.
Somebody called, missing person, 23605 Chestnut Grove here in Hockin County. So do you remember what time you arrived?
I arrived at 9:14 p.m. and I made contact with a Diane Whitaker, Julie Whitaker, Keith Strickland, Dustin Eveland, and Craig Eveland.
All right, so 6 people, is that right?
5.
5 people, sorry. Did any of those 5 people live at that residence?
None of them resided there.
So upon arriving and seeing these 5 people who didn't live at that residence, what did you learn what was happening?
Diane and Julie, they were both reporting that Diane's son and Julie's father, James Whitaker, as a missing person. They told me that, Diane told me that the last time that she had contact with him was by telephone, and that was on July 3rd, I believe, and that none of the other parties present had any contact with him since that point in time.
So for 22 or 23 days, no one had been in touch with James Whitaker?
That is correct.
Right. When you get this information from these 5 individuals at 9:14 at night, what do you do?
Essentially, I got written statements from Diane and Julie Whitaker. I attempted to go into the house, look for any obvious signs of a struggle or obvious signs of blood since he had been gone for such a long period of time. The house was not well kept. I didn't see anything that struck me as out of the ordinary. I photographed the residence. I obtained some DNA I took 2 toothbrushes and a hairbrush for possible DNA evidence. I took a swab of the inside of the door handle for possible DNA evidence, searched the other buildings that were on the property. I did not find anyone in those buildings. Took pictures, contacted a detective after I had been there only after about 15 minutes. I did not have a positive feeling about the case. And then after speaking with them, I also received a letter from Julie. She gave me a letter that was a sample letter that she identified as her father's handwriting. And after that, I left the scene.
Thank you. I want to talk about a few of the things that you mentioned, but we'll start with the last one. You said you got a sample letter. Why do you get a sample letter? Or a writing sample, excuse me.
She also had digital photographs of something that she was claiming was a suicide note that was allegedly written by her father. She had that in digital format, and she said that wasn't her father's handwriting, and she emailed that to me. I received that the following day on the 26th.
Okay,
So I wanted to have something that she identified as a known item that she identified as her father's handwriting to have as a possible comparison in the future.
all right. And you said you collected a sample, but you also collected the alleged suicide note as well?
No, not the physical item.
Okay.
I only received on the 26th, the following day, she emailed me digital photographs of the physical, of that alleged note.
Okay.
There was 3 individual pictures.
All right, and I think I'm going to show you a picture of those images as well.
Okay.
You also mentioned taking some photographs and the messiness of the scene. We'll take a look at those as well. But before we walk through kind of your steps of what you did to search and to document the scene, tell us a little bit more about James Whitaker. Did you know him prior to that night?
I had met James Whitaker one other time. I believe it was in 2018. I responded to a call for service there in reference to a drive-by shooting. Excuse me. I briefly spoke to him there at that location, but the majority of the time I was patrolling the area trying to find the alleged suspect.
All right, so you've got this missing person, trying to find somebody. You've seen Mr. Whitaker before. Does it occur to you maybe like, well, what does he look like? Can you tell us about how big James Whitaker was?
He is slightly shorter than I am. I would put him around 5'5", 5'6". I would put him a little over 200 pounds.
So shorter guy, but bigger.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd put him in his, age-wise, I'd put him in his late 50s, early 60s.
All right. Now, you mentioned these 5 people that were there, and you mentioned that none of them lived at the residence. Did you learn that there were some people that weren't there?
Yes. Julie told me that when they arrived at the location that Michael Dixon and his daughter Melody were at the residence. Through talking to them, I learned that they had allegedly been living there with James for approximately 18 months off and on. And then when he found out law enforcement was coming, he and Melody loaded up a vehicle and left.
When you called the detective that was going to continue this investigation because you didn't get a positive feeling about what you saw that night, did you pass along that information that somebody who lived here left knowing that law enforcement was coming?
Yes.
All right, I want to show you a few of those photos. You said you took some photos of the scene.
Correct.
Now, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. These are like the photos.
They can publish it immediately, so just as that's fine.
Jurors need to move to see the monitor, that's fine.
Okay.
I can see.
All right, and if we need to move, then we'll move. Thank you.
I'm
Judge,
still
may
good.
I ask some of the jurors in the back if they are able to see?
Sure. Go ahead.
The juror's on the left side of the room, my left. Are you able to see the screen? We promise if you can't see something, you can't hear something, raise your hand and let the judge know if you don't mind. Lieutenant Champ, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit N. State's Exhibit N is a composite exhibit of a number of images, and I'll take the exact. 53 images.
Charles, if you would dim the lights, please.
Too much?
Is lighting helping the jury or hurting you being able to see?
It's a little too dark for me, Judge.
Okay, why don't you just turn one of those on and back?
All right, thank you.
All right, yes.
Now, Lieutenant Champ, just showing you the first image here, so I'm just going to scroll through a few, and if you would just tell me if you recognize these as the photos that you took that night.
Okay.
These look like the photos that you've taken that night?
Yes, they are.
All right, I want to just go through these. Give me 1 second. I'm not going to spend a lot of time walking through these images, but I want to have a better understanding of what you're looking at, why you're taking these photos, meaning the significance of it. So I'm looking at the first two images here. They're mailbox. Is this why are you taking these images, sir?
Just to document the actual address of the location.
Looking at Exhibit N, page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so can you kind of walk us through were you documenting some of the different rooms in the house there?
The first 3 to 4 pictures, I believe, are of what they identified as James Whitaker's bedroom. Then there were 2 to 3 photos of the bathroom, and then the last set of photos was the kitchen and into like a dining room area.
And is this the first floor of the residence?
Yes, it is.
And you mentioned earlier that it was kind of a cluttered or disarray of
Correct.
the house. Do these images document that disarray or that clutter?
I believe they do.
All right, we'll continue scrolling through, so that's image 15, 16. I'm going to skip through if you don't mind, just one moment here. Now, I'm on image 25. Can you tell us what we're looking at in image 25?
This is a downstairs area. When you enter the front door of the residence, it has a slight split level. These are the stairs and the doorway leading to the basement.
Did you learn if this door had a lock on it?
It had a lock on it prior to my arrival. When Julie and Diane arrived, the door was locked and secured, and they asked Keith, Dustin, and Craig to break the door open to see if they could locate their father in there.
So this was a locked basement door.
That is correct.
Did you learn who lived in that basement that was locked?
I was told by the males there that that area was considered Michael and Melody's bedroom.
I apologize, Judge. I was on image 26 on Exhibit N. I'm going to continue scrolling through. Now through page 33, were all these images taken of that basement area?
Yes.
All right, so you mentioned that in addition to looking through the house, that you looked around the property as well. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
If I showed you an aerial photo of the property, would that help you orient the different buildings that were on that property?
Yes.
Lieutenant Champ, I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit VV.
That's VV.
VV as in Victor, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, it's a little grainy to see here, but does this show an aerial shot of the Whitaker residence?
Yes.
I'm going to use my mouse to kind of highlight some areas, and I want you to tell us generally what you think they are. Does this look like the residence where the home is there in that
It is.
box?
It's difficult for me to see that from this angle.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. And what is this large structure here?
That was what I would consider a garage, a large outdoor building.
Okay. And then this road along,
That is Chestnut Grove Road.
okay, this gray area that I've highlighted is Chestnut Grove. Okay, is that right, sir?
Yes.
All right. Now, you also mentioned that you were sent an image of some letters that were purported or alleged to have been a suicide note or a letter from
That is correct.
James Whitaker. Then, Champ, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit QQ. State's Exhibit QQ is a composite exhibit of 3 images. I'm going to scroll through these 3 images if you don't mind. Now, especially looking at this first one that's signed off as Love Jimbo. You recognize these 3 images, sir?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, you may.
Can you close that down for a moment while we approach?
Lieutenant Champ. I'm going to answer that last question again. So we're looking at State's Exhibit QQ, particularly what we're endeavoring to do is just make sure we all know what we're looking at, okay?
Okay.
All right, so in order to help familiarize yourself with this image, looking at the bottom, it says Love Jimbo. Does this look like the letter that you received as the purported or alleged suicide note?
It looks like the same digital image that I received, yes.
Okay, okay. All right, so after documenting the inside of the house, going out to that outbuilding, did you walk around the property at all?
I did not walk around the external of the property, only the house, the garage, and there is a camper behind the garage that I looked into. They had told me, they had came out at, I believe they told me 7 p.m., and they had walked around the property during some daylight hours. It was already dark when I arrived on scene, and I didn't feel it would be beneficial with me not knowing the area to attempt to go through the forest or other outside areas.
Yeah, I mean, you said it was 9:15, and you just said it was dark, so, earlier you said that there were no obvious signs that you could see of blood anywhere. Is looking at through a potential crime scene at 9:15 with only a flashlight, is that an ideal circumstance
No.
to be looking at a scene?
No, it is not.
All right, so what was the decision then at that point at that hour?
At that point in time, I would go back, complete the report, have James entered as a missing person, and then there was a detective that was assigned to be on duty in the morning during daylight hours and I would kind of hand everything off to him, brief him of what I had done, and kind of let them roll from there.
About how long were you on the scene that night?
I left at 11:17, so just over 2 hours.
One moment. All right, sir, so when you decided to leave the scene at 11 or so, as you mentioned, what was going to happen with the property that night after you left?
Craig Eveland and his girlfriend were going to stay at the property. That was arrangements made between Julie and Diane and the Evelands.
All right, thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, officer.
Morning.
I'm just going to be pretty brief. You said that you were there for about 2 hours total?
That is correct.
Okay. And that during your time there, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary?
Correct.
Outside of the pictures you took?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that the only time you'd seen Mr. Whitaker was in 2018?
Yes,
That was about 2 years prior to this?
correct.
Okay. So you have no idea what he looked like really in those 2 years, just from what you'd seen earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other interactions with Mr. Whitaker?
No.
Do you know anything else about him or his home or anything of that nature?
No, I do not.
Okay. And after this 2 hours you were involved, was that pretty much the totality of your part of this investigation?
That is correct.
Okay. So basically what you told us here today is pretty much all you know about it.
That is correct.
And the last thing was, I imagine that when you were sent out there on this missing persons, you probably looked in to see if there's anyone else who had made a missing persons report for Mr. Whitaker?
I did not specifically try to search for someone who had made another report of that. No,
Okay. But you weren't aware of anyone else who had made any previous reports that Mr. Whitaker was
No,
missing?
I was not.
And you said you went out there on the 25th?
July 25th,
July
yes.
25th. Okay. Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Redirect.
Yeah, that's fine. Sir, all the photos that I showed you, Exhibit N, VV, and QQ, were those all true and accurate descriptions of the photos that you had either taken or had seen that night?
Absolutely.
Judge, as a matter of housekeeping, do you want us to move for exhibits at the end of the witness or at the conclusion?
Why don't we approach here?
Sir, the state has no questions for Mr. Champ.
All right, you may stand down, thank you. And your next witness, please.
Julie? One moment, Your Honor.
Certainly. Come on in, ma'am.
Yes.
Right there, yeah. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to provide in this cause is truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, can you be seated, please? All right, and if you could pull that red thing in front of you. There you go. And the press is watching this remotely, and they may want to take a picture of you. Do you have any objection to that?
Yeah, I
You
do.
do? Okay, then no pictures of this particular witness. And you can remove your mask, please. All right, and go ahead, Mr. Pearson, when you're ready, sir.
May I begin, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you state your name, spelling your last name for the record, please?
My name is Julie K. Whitaker, Whitaker.
Okay. Julie, I'm gonna give you some ground rules, okay?
Okay.
One is that I'm gonna need you to speak up because the ladies and gentlemen back here need to hear you as well, okay?
Okay.
And also to answer verbally because this is being recorded. So I'm gonna need your audible answers, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Are you nervous?
I'm just overwhelmed.
Okay. Anytime you need to take a break, just let me know, all right?
Okay.
And it helps if you breathe, okay?
Okay.
Julie, where are you from?
Originally, or
Yeah, originally. Not today, but originally, where are you from?
I was born in Columbus, Ohio,
Okay. And how long did you live in Columbus?
till my 11th birthday,
And then where did you move?
to South Bloomingville, Ohio,
Okay. How long did you stay there?
till I was 21, and then back and forth since then
Okay.
to my parents' house.
In Columbus?
I mean, just working different, lived in a few different places.
Okay.
Columbus, Logan, traveled the country for a year,
All right, all right. Are you working now?
Not currently, no.
Okay. And where did you go to high school?
Logan High School.
How much time did you spend in Logan, Ohio?
I mean, other than high school, not a whole ton of time.
All right.
Mostly South Bloomingville.
Okay. And you have siblings, is that right?
I have 3 sisters, yes.
Okay. And what are their names?
Their full names?
Just their first names.
Oh, okay. Jody, Jennifer, and Jessica.
Some of them are married, right?
2 are married, yes.
Okay, so they have different last names.
Correct.
Okay, we don't need to go into that here. Where do you currently live? You don't have to give me your address, just generally, where do you currently live?
I currently stay between 2 places because of this situation, so Galloway and Lancaster.
Okay, it's fair to say that this situation with your father is not resolved.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, let's talk about your father for a bit, please. Did you live with him or your mother growing up?
Both of them. My parents were married my entire life until my mother passed away.
And can you describe your father just briefly?
Yes. My dad was a very hardworking, enthusiastic. We called him the natural leader. He always, taught us things to anybody. He would teach anyone anything. Pretty smart guy. Liked adventure, hunting, and always, with us 4 girls. He didn't have any boys, so, even though, hunting per se is a guy's activity, he took us along and, taught us how to do, everything it took to kill the big bucks. And taught me how to build stuff. He was very skilled. He had a lot of, different skills. He could build a car, he'd tear it down and rebuild an old Mustang or Fairlane. He had a lot of friends. We always did big parties for the holidays, like 4th of July.
Okay. So as your father was living here in Hawking County, do you remember his address?
Yes.
Okay.
23605 Chestnut Grove Road, South Bloomingville, Ohio, 43152.
Okay. That's in Hawking County, Ohio?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. How long had he lived there at that address?
Since 1997 is when we built the cabin on that hill. Before that, we lived the next hill over, since my 11th birthday, 1994, July 16th.
Okay. And so you lived in that house as well at times?
Yes, I helped build it and lived in it till I graduated high school, and then I came back, 3 or 4 different times.
Okay.
And then even once I didn't live there, I would come and stay with my parents, to visit.
All right. And can you describe it for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please?
Describe the cabin?
Yes.
It's a log cabin with an addition on the front that is considered our living room, and then So you walk in the front door, it's a living room, and then you walk up 3 steps, and it's kind of like a hallway type thing, opens up into a dining room kitchen, and then you go back to the hallway, and that's my mom and dad's bedroom and the bathroom. And then if you come back out and go back down those 3 steps, there's another set of steps, and you walk down those, there's a wood burner at the bottom, that's how we heated the house. And the big bedroom was one of my sisters, we kind of switched around, but mine was always back bedroom. So there's the big bedroom, and then there's a little laundry room, a little tiny bathroom, and then 2 more bedrooms.
Okay. 1 second. This is gonna be. Yeah. Julie, take a moment to orientate yourself with this, okay?
Okay.
Does this look familiar to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you've never seen this picture before, have you?
No.
Sorry to spring this on
Yeah,
you.
no, so I took a minute to zoom in myself.
Well, what is this?
I mean, that looks like the barn and the driveway and the trash pile and the...
Okay. So this is an aerial photograph, right? I'm gonna need a verbal answer.
Yes, it's the top of the hill, yes.
My laser pointer seems to go out when I hit the screen, right? It's really small, so I'll approach it. Would this be Chestnut Grove Road?
Yes, Chestnut Grove.
And this here, would that be the house?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to see it, like it's blurry, but yeah, it's at the bottom of the driveway, so yes.
Okay, so right there?
Yeah, and the other one's the other roof that you can actually see. That's the barn, is what we called it. It's a big building
Okay,
that me and my dad built.
all right. What type of things would your dad do in that barn?
Well, we originally built it just to have, storage and somewhere to work on cars, and then we had extra supplies, so we built an apartment type situation for me on the other side.
Over here?
Yeah, well, no, that's where you just pointed. That's actually a camper that's no longer there. It was someone else's, but basically half of the building.
Okay.
So yes, it was just like kind of we would hang out in there if it was pouring down rain, springtime, everybody, people stop by, we all sit around and talk, or someone comes over and needs, to change a wheel bearing. My dad was always, very welcoming and helpful to, let people use stuff and, help them with it, so.
We've mentioned your dad before. Joel, could I get A? So exhibit A. Julie, who is that?
That's my father, James Whitaker Jr.
Okay. When was this photograph taken?
I don't have an exact date, but within the last few years. I just don't have an exact date, obviously in the winter.
When was the last time you saw him?
The last time I saw my dad was in March of 2020.
Did he look similar to that?
Yes.
How often did you speak with your dad?
I spoke with my dad quite often. I had stayed down there, to take him to the doctor and stuff. I did that a lot. I would stay for a week, and take him to the doctor or, do the running because he didn't have a vehicle all the time. So,
Okay.
a lot. I was pretty close. My parents were my best friends.
All right. At some point in time, were you unable to get into contact with him?
I wasn't personally. My grandmother was trying to get a hold of him.
Talk about that.
So on July 11th, about 6:30-ish in the evening, my grandma called me and she said,
Objection. Here's that.
I have the phone call on. Sorry.
We need to approach.
Sure.
All right. Yeah.
Julie, you got a call from your grandmother, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you remember what time of day that was?
In the evening.
Okay. What was her, I guess her demeanor when she called you?
She was upset, a little wound up.
Okay. And you can tell when your grandmother is upset and wound up?
Absolutely. Very close to my grandmother also.
Okay. And what did she tell you as a result?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain.
Okay. Without telling me what she told you, what did you do as a result of that?
I immediately messaged one of my dad's neighbors and asked if they had heard or seen from my dad lately.
Okay. What neighbors did you contact?
Carmela Evelyn, to be exact.
Okay. And how close does Carmela Evelyn live to your father?
She lives at the end of Thomas Road, which is about 1.5 miles. It's Chestnut Grove, where my dad lives, is at a T, and the road goes down to 56, and she lives at the bottom of the hill,
Okay.
or the bottom of the road.
So you made contact with her and spoke with her, and you were trying to locate your father?
Yes, I was still on the phone with my grandmother, and I messaged her on Facebook Messenger
Okay.
and asked her that.
Okay. Were you able to find the location of your father?
No, I was not.
And again, where were you physically when you're having this conversation?
In Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. So you're in Columbus, got your grandmother on the phone, trying to find your father,
Yes,
and you're calling people down where he lives, trying to locate.
calling and messaging, yes.
Okay. About how long did this go on that day?
Pretty much all evening. And I was also trying to call my dad's cell phones, but they were both just going straight to voicemail.
Okay.
And the voicemails were full.
So you're not able to get into contact with your father that night?
Not at all.
Were you ever able to get into contact with your father again?
No, I was not.
At some point in time, did you come to Hawking County to the Chestnut Grove address to try and locate him?
Yes, I did.
What was your thought process in trying to do that?
What do you mean?
What did you hope to accomplish by coming to Hawking County to find your father?
Well, I mean, I hoped that he would, be at home, or I would have some kind of information by going into, our home that would lead me to figure out where he was.
Were you able to get down to Columbus immediately?
You mean to Hawking County?
I'm sorry, to Hawking County immediately?
No.
Okay, why not?
I had just totaled my car, so I didn't have a car. My grandmother doesn't have a car. So it took a minute to get it all fixed. And also, I tried to get a hold of my dad for a few, I wasn't going to just drive down there the first day my grandma says that, because, it could have just been, you don't have service in the hills, just.
Okay. So, what about your sisters? Did you contact them and have them go check up on them?
So while I was actually messaging Carmela Evelyn, my sister Jennifer happened to beep in on the phone.
Okay, without telling me what she said.
Well, I didn't answer.
Oh, okay.
I messaged her on Facebook also, or Messenger also.
Okay. The conversations with your other sisters, did that put at ease your concern about your father?
No, I was only able to get into contact with Jennifer, and she didn't, really have an answer at all of what to do. We all kind of, me and my grandmother and my sister Jennifer were unsure, do we send the sheriff out there? Do we drive out there?
Yeah. And so at some point, you decided to come to Hawking County, correct?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember what day that was?
Yes, I do.
What day was that?
Saturday, July 25th.
How did you get down here?
I fixed my car enough to drive it down.
What did you, who did you drive down with?
My grandmother, Diana Whitaker.
Did anyone else come with you?
Not in my car, but yes. Three others.
Explain that.
So my friend Keith Strickland, my friend since 6th grade, he came up, helped me fix my car. We needed a brake light assembly, a few other things. Zip strapped it all together. And then he followed me. I went and picked up my grandmother, and we drove, separately, but, side by side or whatever, down to Thomas Road. And we stopped at the end of Thomas at the pull off. And me and my grandmother did. And Keith pulled into Joe and Carm Evelyn's driveway and picked up Dustin and Craig Evelyn. They are also my childhood friends, and one's an boyfriend now. I don't know how to say that.
So you pick up Dustin and Craig Evelyn that you've known for a long time.
Yes.
Did you inform them of, I guess, your mission?
Yes, everyone was already aware prior to the actual, meetup, pickup, whatever. We had all been corresponding and, searching for my dad. They were down there, so it was easier for them to be able to get up to the house to ask.
And you get to the house, I'm sorry to cut you off. After Dustin and Craig, you meet up with them, you gather them. Where do you go? What do you do?
I don't smoke in the car with my grandmother, so I get out, smoke a cigarette, talk to them about a game plan of what we plan to do. And then we all get back in the cars, and we drive up Thomas Road, make a left, pull into my mom and dad's driveway, and park the cars. And there was a blue car backed all the way down right in front of the cabin.
Okay. And what did you do next?
We all got out of the cars, and we walked into the house, some quicker than others because my grandmother's 70, well, she was 76, but she's now 77. So.
Did you see anyone there?
Not until we walked in the door.
And who did you see when you walked in the door?
Mike and Melody. Michael Dixon and Melody Dixon, which I did not know who Melody Dixon was personally, but I knew that that's who it was from Craig, Keith, and Dustin, because they did.
All right. So you gestured to someone sitting at the table? As
Yes.
Mike? Okay.
Yes.
Can you point him out and describe what he's wearing, please?
Michael Dixon wearing the glasses, the blue mask, and the blue suit.
Okay. Your Honor, could the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant?
No objection, Your Honor.
The record shall so reflect.
Okay. So you saw the defendant there and Melody there?
Yes.
You had known the defendant, right? But you had not met his daughter, Melody. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you came to know the defendant, how you met him.
Okay, so my dad and his best friend had a mutual friend who was actually related to my dad's friend, and that is Frank Species, who is Mike's stepfather.
Okay, so just to be clear, so I understand, a friend of a friend introduced Mike's stepdad?
No, my dad's best friend is related to Frank.
Okay.
So then Frank is with Denise, Mike's mother. And we all kind of moved from Columbus to South Bloomingville in the same time era. But I didn't personally know Mike back then as a child, seen him at gatherings and things, but didn't know him until he actually moved into my parents' house.
Okay. How, you said you knew of him as a child, is that right?
Yeah, we went to, parties, to, like, holiday gatherings together, cookouts, things like that, but we didn't,
Okay. About what age are we talking? That you were when you met Mike?
Well, I mean, throughout my entire life, because we were always gathering with Ron and Tina, but, it wasn't like a personal relationship in any way. I did not know him. I knew of his mother more than him.
Okay. And his mother is who?
Denise Specie.
Okay. And Frank Specie is her husband?
That is correct.
Which would be the defendant's stepfather?
Yes.
All right, so you knew of Mike and knew Mike/the defendant for quite a bit of time, never met his daughter?
That is correct.
Okay. And you knew that he lived with your dad at this point?
Yes, I did.
Did you know when he moved in, the defendant?
From July of 2020 to probably about 18 months or so.
Okay.
Like August maybe, or maybe a little before, but 2018.
Okay. Did you know when it happened, or is this information you got after?
When I came down to visit, it was not long after, and he was there, and, my dad was trying to remind me of who he was, just like what we're doing now,
Okay.
Similar.
So you had conversations with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay.
I stayed there with my child, with Mike there.
All right. So you get there on this day, on July 25th, 2020, and the defendant is there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he say anything to you? How was he acting? What happened?
Dustin Evelyn walked in before me, and he, should I say what he said or no? Because I don't know if I'm supposed to or not.
We can move past what he said.
Okay, sure.
Just go with what the defendant said and what the defendant did.
Okay, so Dustin walked in, and then when I walked in about probably 4 seconds later, Mike was about 4 steps down, walking down the steps to the basement, and he turned around because I was talking to Melody as soon as I walked through the door,
Okay.
because she was holding a crossbow.
Okay, was that abnormal?
I mean, why are you holding a crossbow in the middle of the day on, the living room?
Okay.
Just, kind of weird.
All right. And what did you say to Melody?
I said, exact words.
Yes.
I said, what the fuck are you doing with that?
Okay. And did you talk to Michael, the defendant?
Yes, I said that to her. She said it was hers. And then I looked at Mike and said, I want to talk to you right now.
Did you have a conversation with him?
I surely did.
All right. Tell us about that conversation.
I walked up the steps. He walked up behind me. We were standing face to face, and Melody was sitting in a chair right beside of me. And I asked him where my dad was. He said he did not know. He said he had taken off, went somewhere. And then I said,
I'm going to interrupt you. Did he say where your dad had, quote unquote, taken off to?
no, that was my next question, was to where and with who. And he said he didn't know because he wasn't there.
All right. What did you do after that, Julie?
I asked him, I was looking around the kitchen where we were standing, and there was a lot of things missing. And I started,
What things? Talk about that a little bit, please.
personal effects of my father's, my dad's existence essentially was gone. My dad, I'm 37 years old, known my dad my whole life, lived with him at least half of it. And he had, just like most other people, a place he sat and things that sat around that place. And the captain's chair, that's what we called it, his chair. The captain's chair was there, but there was nothing else there that looked like my dad was even represented in his home. Everything was gone. So I asked Mike, where's all my dad's stuff? And he said he took it with him. And I started asking specific items, like his medicine bag, his book bag that he always had sitting in the corner that just kind of had an extra set of clothes. You know, if you need to grab it because you know, emergency happens, you got to go somewhere, you know. Somebody calls, hey, somebody's in the hospital. You know, he just always had a, we all do. Me and all my sisters, my dad, it was just something we did. His 1100 shotgun that I killed my 12-point with that always sat right there at the window. There was a sentimental gun to me, and I, you know, knew it was not there immediately. That was the first thing I noticed. And then, you know, I went into like the notebook and stuff, you know, just things that my dad had. And Mike just kept saying, he took it with him, he took it with him, he took it with him. And then I said, how do you know that? Because I thought you weren't here. And he said, I didn't mean I wasn't here. I meant I wasn't up here. I was downstairs because that's where his room was.
That's where the defendant's room was?
Mike's room was, yes.
And so what did you do after that?
I asked him some more questions because, you know, throughout the time from my grandmother's call to me getting there, I had gathered some information about different things that were being done at my dad's home. And so I asked him those questions. And he, you know, the entire time wouldn't even look at me. And so as he wasn't looking at me and he's looking this way. Sorry, I skipped a part. Can I go back?
Yes.
Okay, so after asking about the other things that I knew were, you know, missing, he told me that he was there, he was just downstairs, and I said, so who did he leave with, or how did he leave? And he said he just took off. And so I said, so he just took off walking? And he said, I don't really know.
I need to stop you there.
Okay.
Did your father have a vehicle?
There were vehicles there, but they were kind of like either not tagged or half running. Not a vehicle you could just take off in to go wherever.
Okay. So the defendant told you that your dad took off, and you stated that you asked him, did he take off walking with all this stuff?
That is correct. I actually specifically named off all of those items and said, so you mean to tell me he took off walking with all of that stuff, Mike?
What did the defendant say to you?
Yeah.
And what did you do then, Julie?
I was staring at him, next question was, so if my dad's been gone and you don't know where he is, why wouldn't you try to call me or message me on Messenger? Because we're friends on Facebook on 2 accounts that he has, and he's sent me plenty of Messenger messages. So.
Were any of those messages about your father leaving?
No, he hadn't sent me no messages. That's what I was asking, why he didn't do that.
So it's your understanding the defendant had a way of contacting you and never did regarding your dad?
Absolutely.
What was his answer to that?
I don't know.
Then what did you do, Julie?
And then I realized my dad's TV was gone because it would have been right beside where his eyes were looking. And because I kept looking at him, I said, where the fuck is my dad's TV? But way louder because I was pretty upset at that point because I knew he was, you know. Anyways, I said that.
Can you describe that TV, please?
It was like a 60-inch, I don't know the brand, but, you know, flat screen TV, thin flat screen TV.
Okay. So you said 60-inch-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, ish. I mean, I didn't measure it. You know, I didn't take it out of the box, so, but it was a big TV.
Something that you knew your father had?
Yeah. For a while, yes.
Okay. And that was not there at that time?
That's correct.
And what did the defendant say to that?
He took it with him.
Okay. And what did this cause you to do, Julie?
Get very angry.
Why did you get very angry?
Because he had told me he didn't witness him leave, yet he was telling me he knew that he took off walking with all of this stuff, a 60-inch TV, a shotgun, a couple bags, a lot of stuff for a man that's, 56 years old and, had heart surgery and all kinds of other things, to just take off walking with all this stuff and for 3 weeks.
So what did this cause you to do besides get angry? Did you say anything to Mike?
Yes, I did. I immediately said, you know what? I'm done with this. The sheriff's on his way. Just get the fuck off this property and don't come back until my dad is found.
What was Melody doing at this time while you're having this discussion with the defendant?
Sitting in a chair right beside me, as I told her to go sit in the chair, as I told him that I wanted to talk to him. And I walked up the stairs, he walked up behind me, and he looked at her and said, don't say anything. So she didn't say anything until after we were done with our conversation.
Excuse me, can we have a sidebar on something here?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Julie, I just have a few more items, okay?
Yes.
All right. So you told Mike that the police were on their way,
That is correct.
and he leaves with Melody. Is that right?
That is correct.
Did they do anything before they left?
They gathered a few items, but before actually the conversation ended and he walked away, I had said, leave, whatever. And then he turned around to walk away, and I remember that he had shot the barn lock off and put his own lock on, and I said, I want the barn key now. And he turned around and handed it to me.
And were you, when did you become aware that he had shot the barn lock off?
Somewhere in the last few days of before I went down there, within the July 20s.
How did you become aware of that?
Keith Strickland told me that because he had been up there.
All right. And when you were there, did you see that for yourself, or?
Yeah, I went straight out there with the key to make sure he gave me the key to the barn, to the lock that he put on.
Okay, and by the barn, you mean the
building.
The bigger building that's closer to the street?
Yes.
And did the defendant give that back to you?
The key?
Yes.
He gave it to me immediately, yes, and I walked up to check and make sure it was the right one.
Then he and the defendant and Melody left, is that right?
He gathered some items and then they left, yes, with a carload of stuff. The car was already loaded with stuff. He only grabbed a hand, he walked out once with a dog, a 50-pound bag of dog food, half a chainsaw under his arm, a Sawzall, and something else. I don't actually remember what it was. And then as he was walking out, he grabbed some arrows off the couch that was on the porch and put it all in the car and left.
Do you remember what type of car?
Blue Volkswagen Beetle, Bug, whatever you call it.
All right. Julie, this is something that did your father have used drugs?
He did.
Okay. What type of drugs did he use?
I mean, he did a lot of different drugs at different times, smoked pot. At the current time, I do believe that it was pot and meth.
Okay. Were you aware if the defendant did any of that?
Yes.
What drugs, to your knowledge, did the defendant do?
The same ones are the only ones I know of.
Okay.
And I only know of the pot because, we smoked pot together, the three of us. And the other I just, seen happen.
And by pot, you mean marijuana?
Yes.
All right. And then I'm gonna need the Q-tip. Julie, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit H, page 0. Oh, my eyes are going bad. 0393. Can you tell me what that is a picture of?
That is a picture of the front of the cabin with canopies set up on the porch and a whole lot of stuff sitting on the porch.
Okay. Cabin. This would be your dad's cabin?
Yes, my mother's cabin that we built for her, yes.
Okay. So this is the same place we were been talking
Yes,
about?
my parents' home.
Okay. The canopies and things, were those there when you were last there?
No, in March they were not there.
And the stuff on the front porch, what is that? Do you know what that stuff is?
Well, there's a couch, a whole bunch of like whatnots, knick-knack kind of things, totes of stuff, just a lot of stuff.
Were those items there, the things on the porch and the canopies there when you were there on July 25th?
Yes.
Okay. And this is kind of like a gravel driveway road?
That is not a driveway.
Walkway.
So that is the walkway. It's like the walkway up there. Just before the picture cuts off, or just after the picture cuts off, there's if you can see, there's railroad ties down the sides there.
Here.
And those are my mom's gardens, but she died and no one cared anymore, so they're weeded out. But anyways, there's a railroad tie this way, and then that's the beginning of the driveway.
Okay.
So that's the walkway, and then it, like divides so someone doesn't drive into the cabin.
And in front of this picture would be the barn.
Way up the driveway, yes.
Up the driveway.
Yes.
So you go driveway, sidewalk, house. Before you start, like, right when you enter the driveway, you have the big barn. Is that correct?
Yes, there's it's at the top, when you enter the driveway, there's the very top of the hill, and then there's a little slope, and that's where the barn is, and then it goes on down a decent little way, and to that.
Okay, great. Could I get 19, please? All right. This is State's Exhibit H, same exhibit, page 411. Does that look familiar to you?
That's the front door of the cabin and the living room,
Okay.
floor, I guess.
Now we progress closer to going inside of that same residence, right?
Yes.
Next photo, please, Joe. All right. What is that? Julie?
This is the front door again, and then those steps I was describing to the area where we stood and had our conversation.
Next photo, Joe. What is this a picture of, Julie?
The area we had the conversation. Just where that deer lamp is.
Here.
Yes, that's where the TV was,
Okay. On top of this?
on that shelf, yes.
Okay. And See a little open area down here, what is that?
That's the stairway to the basement.
And so if the person who took this picture, are there stairs leading up as well?
3 stairs up, and then I believe 9 down.
Okay. So this is when you
I
come
might
right?
be wrong, there might be 11 down, but either way, 3 up,
Okay.
for sure.
So the person who took this photo seems to be standing on the landing as you walk into the residence, correct?
No, not into the residence, no. When you walk into the residence, it's the living room, and then there's like a little rectangle landing right here, and then 3 steps up or go down the stairs. So whoever took that picture was standing in that little rectangle
Okay.
between the living room and the stairs.
I misspoke. You go past the living room
Yes,
first.
yes.
So this is not what you see when you first walk in. You go past the living room first, and then you can go up or down.
Yes, yes. I mean, you can see that when you walk in the door, but you have to move on in to be there at that situation.
And what is back here if you go up those 3 stairs?
So if you can see, there's chandelier there. That area is the dining room, or was when I lived there. It didn't look like this ever before. So then that brown cabinet, the one by the pink drawer kind of thing.
Oh.
Other side of the chandelier. Yep, that one right there, the tall one. So that is like turned long ways, so there's a slight walkway into the kitchen area. Just on the other side of this cabinet would be the stove and refrigerator.
In here? In this?
Yes, there's see this wall where the bookshelves are?
Yeah.
Okay, so it stops where that brown shelf is.
So
and
there's a
it
little
goes-
walkway between here and here?
No,
No.
no.
You're gonna
That,
have to how about you? Can the witness approach the screen?
No objection, Your Honor.
Certainly, go ahead.
And point to what you're talking about so I stop messing it up.
okay. So these bookshelves, see this is a wall here, and that's the corner of it. It just goes that way, but this is basically up against, this side of this is up against this side of this bookshelf. There's no walkway, this is the only gap at the top.
Okay.
Okay, so you walk around it, and there's kitchen cabinets, the same top cabinets, and then so on.
So on the other side of this picture is a kitchen.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
So it's kind of complicated because all these shelves ended up there.
All right. Thank you. What's the next one, Joel? All right. Is this the kitchen, Julie?
Yes.
Ma'am, if you could pull the microphone in front of you.
Sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
So is that the kitchen that you remember?
That's the kitchen.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there some hesitancy there?
Well, just, I mean, it never looked like that in my life.
Okay.
In my life, you know.
But that is the kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, if you see the corner of this.
Yes.
See that brown shelf by the stove?
Right here.
Yes, that's what I was talking about, that's butted up to the bookshelves, and I said it was long ways, and then there's a, walk through. That's what I meant.
Okay.
So now you can kind of visualize it goes
That's what
that
you
way.
would see when
Yes.
you go through the walkthrough.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's just one big room, but that shelf like kind of divided it for some reason.
All right. Julie, before I move on, there's something else I forgot to mention. You were convicted of you were charged with a theft offense back in 2019, is that right?
It was a,
Without getting into the facts of it, it was a misdemeanor theft, is that right?
yes, but I wasn't convicted of that.
Okay. You were convicted of an unauthorized use of property, correct?
Right.
A misdemeanor in the 4th degree?
Yes, I pled guilty. They said I stole $7 worth of stuff. from
Without
my
getting
house.
to the facts of it?
Sorry.
You pled guilty to it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What did you have to do as a result of pleading guilty? Did you have to go to jail? Did you do community service? What did you do?
I had already went to jail for it because I had a warrant because I didn't even know about it.
Okay.
Be-
So that case is over?
Yes, it's over because it was never really a case.
Okay. But you pled guilty to unauthorized use of property, misdemeanor in the 4th degree, and that's completed?
Yes.
Okay. Now, going back to what you're here to talk about, how long did you stay around at this property after the defendant and Melody left?
I actually left immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I actually maybe left just before them. Keith, Craig, and Dustin stayed. Me and my grandmother went down the road to Carmela Evelyn's, Craig and Dustin's parents' house. She used their phone to call the sheriff to make sure things were,
Okay.
progressing.
Did someone from the sheriff's office arrive?
Yes, one officer.
Okay. Who was that officer?
His name was Sean Champ.
Okay. You know Sean Champ?
I mean, I met him that day. I haven't
Okay.
seen him since, but I know him for 6 hours.
Okay. And you talked to him about what was going on and what the problem was. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did he leave contact information for himself?
Yes, he left an email and information that a detective would be out. This is Saturday night. Detective would come out Monday at 10 a.m. to meet me there to further, I guess, look around, I guess.
Okay. And did you talk to a detective?
Not on Monday. He came on Sunday.
Okay. Who did you talk to?
Dustin Robinson and Joe Kinnear, and then there were several other ones that came like in and out, but I mainly stayed with those two gentlemen,
Okay.
detectives.
Did you tell them all what was going on and all you knew about the situation, about your dad missing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Later, did you come in contact with a letter?
No, I knew about the letter the night before I went there.
Oh, okay.
I had gathered a lot of information, as I said earlier.
Okay. How did you come into contact with this letter?
My grandmother and I spoke with Dustin Evelyn the night before we went down there, which would be July 24th. And he mentioned the letter we were not in the same home. So I talked to him, then she talked to him, phone calls.
Okay.
Then she called me and asked me if I had heard about this supposed suicide note. I had never heard of it. So I immediately said, I'll call you back. Called Dustin. He described it to me briefly and said, Keith didn't send it to you. He took pictures of it.
Object at this point, Your Honor.
You need to approach.
Sure. So Julie, you got the note, correct?
I did not get the note. I got a picture of the note.
Okay. How did you get that?
I immediately texted Keith and asked him why he hadn't sent it to me and asked him to send it to me.
Okay.
So he sent it to me.
And Keith, being Keith Strickland?
Keith Strickland, yes.
Okay. And how long have you known Keith Strickland?
I've known him since I was 11 years old, 6th grade.
Was it a friend of yours?
Friend of mine for a long time, and then short period of time he was not, and then again, friend.
Are you friends now?
Not currently speaking to him.
Okay. So
Thank you.
how did he get you this item, this note?
He texted it to me on my phone.
Okay, so it wasn't an email, it was a text.
That's correct.
Before getting into the letter, did you have an opportunity to read it?
I called my grandmother and we read it together. I read it to her.
Okay. And did you turn it over to law enforcement?
Yes, I did. I emailed it to Sean Champ and then also to Dustin Robinson.
Okay.
And possibly another detective the following day. A few of them asked me to email it to him.
Okay. What was your thoughts on it?
It was a fake suicide note / profession or I'm not sure what word I'm trying to use, but
Did you believe it was authentic?
not at all.
Okay. First of all, let's describe what it looked like, the particular item physically.
It was like one of the notepads that hang on the fridge with a magnet kind of paper. And there was 3 pages basically, front and back of one, and then another one.
Okay. And you stated that you did not think it was authentic, correct?
Correct?
Had you seen your father write before?
All the time.
Did your father write notes to you, letters to you?
He wrote chore lists, notes, letters, cards, a lot of things, yes.
So after reading this letter, what made you think that it was not authentic?
The way the or not conversation, but the speech in it was not how my dad talks.
Would it be how your dad writes, possibly?
Not at all how he writes, first of all. It wasn't even consistent of anyone's writing. It changed several times throughout the note. But it wasn't the way he spoke at all. Like the words used.
Your Honor, permission to publish this item with State's Exhibit QQ.
All right. And defense?
I would object for the same reasons stated earlier. We can approach if needed be.
I don't think we need to approach. The note what's made in the note are not offered for the truth of the statements made. Is defense all right with the court's limiting instruction?
Your Honor, may we briefly approach?
Yes, all right, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Pearson, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Julie, take a look at the screen, please. Does that look familiar to you?
Yeah, that's the note.
Okay. Can we go through this, please? Can you go ahead and read it if you can see it?
I am at my end of this life, hurting, lonely, without anyone I didn't think I would matter. Again, I'm right, I don't, I'm giving my life so that your pain goes away. Love, Jimbo. That's the last page of it, by the way.
Okay. Can you scroll up, please? This page?
So it'd be the middle page.
All
But
right, actually, go to the first page, which would be the last photo.
hey, so maybe I thought we all cared about each other, but didn't know what I was doing. I care for you, Mike, Melody, and if we became more of a family, our lives would be great. Better than things have been.
Now to the middle page.
But I seen you, Mike, as someone I was looking out for. But I seen you, Mike, as someone I was looking out for. Then Melody, I fell in love with, not knowing how things were between you, she. Show me the woman she is, a being lovely and wanting to give a woman caring and love, not thinking of her wanting you and what you have for each other.
Okay. And at the end, I'm not going to have you reread the last page, but at the end it's signed Jimbo, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did your father go by Jimbo?
Not at all.
Okay. Did he sign his notes by Jimbo?
No.
Anything more specific that you can say regarding whether, that's the language your dad used or not?
My dad could write complete sentences that made sense.
Okay. All right. And you turned this over to law enforcement, is that right?
I did not have a physical copy ever. I turned over the email, yes, along with a page from a notebook of something my dad actually did write.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. I have no further questions.
All right, we're going to take a lunch break. So we'll be back at 1:30. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as I've said earlier, do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not permit anybody to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express any opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. All right, so at this point, we'll take a break for lunch and we'll have everybody back at 1:30. Thank you.